Since its genesis in the first season of Arrow, DC's shared television universe has grown to unexpectedly vast proportions, adapting countless comic book story arcs, introducing exciting new characters, and constantly growing in terms of overall ambition and scope. Sadly, in large part due to the CW's budgetary limitations and young adult audience, some of these depictions have proven to be sorely disappointing.
Who are you?
I am the future Flash. You are the past, whereas I am the future Flash.
Who are you?
I am the future Flash. Because I am the
Whether it be because of trite, infantile melodrama that feels incredibly out of place and defies our heroes' established characterization, awfully underdeveloped plot lines, underwhelming, overblown reveals, thinly written, often aggravating supporting characters,
No! Ray! Oliver!
inconsistent gauging of power levels, or flat acting, quality simply has not always been up to par. On the contrary, however, we've occasionally been given things that can only be described as a comic book reader's wet dream. The kind of moments where everything falls into place perfectly, and the world around you sits still.
What did I say you should do if you encountered a speedster?
Leave him unharmed.
Does this look unharmed to you?
The kind where you're genuinely enveloped into the show's grip, as if you were actually there, experiencing it. For instance, seasons 1, 2, and 5 of Arrow, although each written with numerous issues of varying orders, prominently featured an impressive amount of these engrossing sequences, most of which succeeded on the strength of their villains.
I know what's going on through your mind, Oliver. You're thinking that you can get yourself free from those chains, slam me to the ground, and snap my neck, just like I did to Evelyn. There it is. There's the look I've been waiting to see. But it's not just about stopping me, is it? No. There's something else in there. Confess, Oliver.
Be that as it may, one story arc stands out unambiguously from the rest of the Arrowverse in terms of overall quality and structure. Eobard Thawne / Harrison Wells' storyline from Season 1 of The Flash. It's such an exhilarating ride from start to finish, and the Reverse Flash is an accomplished, fleshed-out villain, even though very little is known about his past, or technically, future. Moreover, the screenwriters did much more than simply draw directly from the source material. They stacked on a complex new spin on the character while remaining punctiliously faithful to his quintessential characteristics, something many a comic fan feel isn't done nearly enough in televised or cinematic adaptations. To commence, the season deals with mystery in an astute manner. Heading into the very last scene of the pilot episode, we're led to believe that the overall focus of the narrative is going to revolve around the whodunit surrounding Barry's mother's death. When the wheelchair-bound Harrison Wells enters his secret chamber and casually stands up, we aren't explicitly told his true identity or involvement in Nora's death, but we arrive to that conclusion rather expediently. Someone unveiling a secret as important as his has to be a villain, following traditional narrative conventions, especially given the scene's macabre framing and Tom Cavanagh's facial expressions. Yet, we can't confirm this because we haven't been given enough information. There's always the possibility of an unforeseen twist or red herring, after all. In the following episode, he murders Simon Stagg, claiming that his protege Barry needed to be kept safe. This is glaringly ominous, but we're still in the dark as to what his true intentions / plan actually are. By strategically hinting at the antagonist's identity and inciting speculation on the part of the viewer, the first half of the season takes on an alternate complexion. In every scene in which Kavanaugh is featured, there's added tension and meaning. The rest of the cast is blissfully unaware as we perceive every exchange from an entirely different vantage point. Every time Wells speaks, there's doubt in our minds as to what he really means. His machinations become the object of conjecture. This is all accomplished independently of each scene's framing. Had we not been shown his implied villainy earlier, this depth would be absent altogether.
You offer protection, hope, light. What that man does is carry out a dark reckoning for his city. It is a brutal, violent vision of justice, one we do not share. You truly think he's a hero? Fine, so be it. But he's not the kind you should be looking up to.
The sole narrative purpose of these small moments, often appearing in short post-credit scenes, is to communicate this, handing us a few pieces of the overall puzzle the main storyline challenges us with. Thus, extraneous meaning is created with just a few minuscule parcels of information, and the viewing experience fundamentally changed. It's made all the more enriching by its contingency to the individual viewer's subjective understanding. Everyone has their own personal theories and feelings regarding the character. The series' far-out subject matter only aggrandizes the potential breadth of these possibilities. Anything could happen, as they say. Incremental disclosure of these fragments is also a tool used by the screenwriters/showrunners to modulate the pacing in the usually uneven and restrictive 23-episode serial format. Although the presence of filler is inevitable, the general flow of the season feels a lot more fluid, something that the show has failed to reproduce since. At the end of every episode, we come out desperately longing for more, yet satiated by what we were shown. In the finale, we're still learning about Eobard's origins and attempting to grasp what molded him into the man he is. By the conclusion, we still don't know for certain. It's a gigantic part of the show's charm, the curious, hypothetical aspect of it. We're always on our toes, guessing. Eobard/Harrison, affectionately surnamed Wellsobard by fans, is also an incredible foil to the naive, inexperienced Barry. They're opposite sides of the same coin, akin to Batman and his arch-nemesis, the Joker. One would not exist without the other. Their dynamic is one of codependency.
We're enemies, rivals, opposites, reverses of one another.
Why were we enemies?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
This is present in the comics, but especially played up on the show. Eobard possesses the same core traits as his comic book counterpart: cunning intelligence, maniacal obsession and obstinacy in pursuit of his goals, sociopathic indifference to human suffering, cold demeanor. He's prone to occasional outbursts of pure, untethered rage, and most importantly, he's ravaged by an all-consuming hatred for Barry.
That is why you killed my mother. That's why you ruined my life. Because you couldn't be me?
I became better than you! I am the one thing you cannot stop, Flash.
But what makes his characterization stand out in the adaptation is his motivation and backstory, which audaciously swerve away from the DC mythos. Pulling from one of the most revered Reverse Flash stories of all time, Flash Rebirth, in 2008, the series' writers managed to make their Eobard unique by bringing forth a novel idea. What if Thawne was himself responsible for the creation of the Flash? In light of Barry's direct implication in the birth of the Reverse Flash persona, the dramatic irony at play here is delicious.
Your latest time jump against the Flash caused a massive drain on your powers. Your cells contain no trace of the Speed Force.
Of course, for this to make any sort of sense, Eobard needed to have an end goal of unsurpassable personal importance, one crucial enough to necessitate begrudgingly casting aside his feelings for Barry. And so they took the decision to have him stuck in the past after coming back in time to murder Barry's mother. Realizing he's in dire straits, he impersonates Harrison Wells, written specifically for the series, using technology from his time, and sets about creating the Flash earlier than in the original timeline in order to head home. This profoundly relatable goal also makes it easy for us to empathize with Eobard despite his Machiavellian methods. It also lends the character more emotional depth. As he spends more and more time with the unknown Barry, he ironically comes to appreciate him as a person, although condescendingly. Make no mistake, he doesn't ever waver or doubt his own actions, but it does grant him more humanity in the eyes of the audience. His poignant monologue in the 20th episode is a great example.
You look so young. I could kill you. Right now. So easy. What I wouldn't have given. All those times before to have had you like this. So helpless. But fate. It's tricky, isn't it? I come here to destroy you. And then to get home, I have to be the one who creates you. But I will say, it's been an education. Watching you grow up all these years, science fairs and soccer games. No hint, no sign, no trace of the man you will be one day, for whom I have nothing but hate.
Many would argue that the salient characteristic of a compelling antagonist is a belief in the necessity of their actions. The unhinged Eobard clearly thinks his undertaking is morally justified, as showcased in episode 22.
You see me as the villain, but Barry, if you were to look back carefully at everything I've done, every wheel I have set in motion, you would realize I have only done what I had to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
The demonic distortion applied to his speedster voice grants him scene-stealing gravitas, another stark opposition to Barry.
Dr. Wells, we meet at last.
What do you want with the tachyonic particles?
My goals are beyond your understanding.
And let's not forget Tom Cavanaugh's breathtaking, multi-layered performance. The implementation of Eddie Thawne as a secondary character, written exclusively for the show too, as well as the coincidentally satisfying and tragic fulfillment of his arc, mesh in really well to the grand picture. Seldom do we see stories so devilishly complex and ambitious these days, especially on television. The shrewd inclusion of time travel as a central storytelling element allows the show to tread in uncharted waters. Take episode 15, one of the highest rated TV episodes of all time on IMDb, in which it's used to elaborate on the Reverse Flash's origins in a subversive way. Due to accustomation with the norms of the medium, we come into Out of Time expecting some important development concerning the main plot, as usually seen in episodes 7, 9, and 15 of the 23-hour format. On the flip side, we have a tacit understanding of what cannot logically occur. Lead characters will not die or are extremely unlikely to suffer any grave injuries. Things won't progress too fast, and what will be learned needs to be taken with a grain of salt due to a lack of context. That's why we're taken aback when Eobard divulges his identity to Cisco, and when Iris kisses Barry after his sentimental confession to her. This all is not supposed to be happening. At least, not this early. The Flash has just turned the tables on us, but not really. Barry rewrites history prior to the ending, and we're back to square one. But the character moments and adrenaline-inducing excitement were real. Even though the actual plot hasn't changed, its perplexities are now much less muddy to us. That's some amazing writing. In short, Season 1 of The Flash dwarfed all expectations, thereby setting an incommensurately high standard for itself and all future comic book adaptations, with its intricately threaded, deftly delivered storyline and villain. It is, for all intents and purposes, an anomaly. Alas, it's been unable to even come close to replicating those thrills in subsequent seasons, leaving us to wonder if it can ever capture such magic again. Perhaps the bar has simply been set too high.